You know that feeling when someone tells you that $500 can buy you a month of pure African adventure, complete with wildlife encounters that would make David Attenborough jealous, food that puts your local fusion restaurant to shame, and social experiences that redefine what hospitality actually means. Well, either that person is selling you oceanfront property in the Sahara, or they're talking about Kenya. Spoiler alert, it's Kenya, and yes, your wallet is about to thank you while your Instagram followers hate you for all the right reasons. Here's what nobody tells you about East Africa's poster child. While everyone's busy Googling these cheap flights to Thailand, for the millionth time, Kenya is sitting there serving up experiences that cost less than your monthly Netflix and coffee habit combined. We're talking about a country where your biggest daily decision might be whether to watch elephants at sunset or grab dinner with new friends who insist on paying because you're their guest. And before you ask, no, this isn't some budget backpacker survivalist nonsense where you sleep in hostels that smell suspicious and eat instant noodles for every meal. The math here is honestly ridiculous. While your friends back home are spending $40 on weekend brunch, you could be having a 3-course meal with locally sourced ingredients, getting your laundry done, taking a taxi across town, and still have change left over for a cold Tusker beer. But here's where it gets interesting. Kenya isn't just cheap, it's strategically positioned to become Africa's next major economic powerhouse, which means you're not just visiting a budget destination. You're witnessing a continent's transformation in real time. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, and yes, there are actual elephants in this story. Kenya has this reputation for being either a safari playground for wealthy tourists or a poverty-stricken disaster zone depending on which documentary you watched last. The reality is so much more complex and, frankly, so much more interesting than either stereotype. This is a country where mobile money transactions per capita exceed those in Sweden, where tech startups are solving problems for the entire continent, and where traditional Maasai communities coexist with glass towers full of software engineers. The cultural dynamics here will mess with your head in the best possible way. You'll meet 20-something entrepreneurs who speak 4 languages fluently, grandmothers who can navigate smartphones better than your tech-savvy cousin, and communities that have mastered the art of making strangers feel like family within minutes of meeting them. It's the kind of place where your Uber driver might have a master's degree and 3 business ideas, while the woman selling vegetables at the market gives you life advice that would cost $200 an hour from a therapist in New York. But what really sets Kenya apart from other budget-friendly destinations is the sheer diversity of experiences packed into a relatively small space. You can literally have breakfast with giraffes, lunch on a pristine beach, and dinner in a rooftop restaurant overlooking a bustling metropolis, all in the same day. Try doing that in Europe without spending your entire year's salary. The infrastructure surprises everyone. Roads that actually work, internet that's faster than what you get in rural America, and a banking system so advanced that other countries send delegations to study it. And here's the kicker. While everyone's fighting for space on overcrowded Southeast Asian islands or paying premium prices for authentic European experiences, Kenya remains refreshingly undiscovered by the Instagram masses. You're getting in before the secret gets out, before the prices triple, and before every backpacker and their blog starts recommending it. This is your chance to experience a country that's genuinely excited to meet you, where tourism hasn't yet turned locals into walking price tags, and where $500 doesn't just buy you a month of survival, it buys you a month of stories you'll be telling for decades. So buckle up, because we're about to show you how Kenya breaks every rule about budget travel, challenges every assumption about Africa, and proves that the best adventures happen when you stop following the crowd and start following your curiosity instead. Kenya sits right on the equator, which sounds like it should be unbearably hot until you realize that altitude is the great equalizer here, and this country has altitude in spades. We're talking about a landscape so dramatically varied that you could film a dozen different movies here without anyone noticing they're in the same country. The northern deserts look like Mars had a baby with a Western movie set, while the Central Highlands are so green and temperate that British colonials took one look and decided to never leave. and honestly, you can't blame them for the geography part. The Great Rift Valley cuts through Kenya like a geological scar that's actually beautiful, creating a natural highway for wildlife migration that's been happening for millions of years. Standing on the edge of this valley, looking down at lakes that shimmer pink with flamingos, you start to understand why early humans decided this was a pretty good spot to hang out and eventually invent civilization. The valley system stretches from the Red Sea to Mozambique, but Kenya got the premium section, the part with the most lakes, the most wildlife, and the most dramatic scenery. Mount Kenya, the country's namesake peak, rises over 17,000 feet and is so massive it creates its own weather systems. The mountain has permanent glaciers sitting practically on the equator, which seems to violate several natural laws but somehow works perfectly. Local communities have been living in the shadow of this peak for centuries, developing agricultural systems that take advantage of every climate zone from tropical at the base to Arctic at the summit. It's basically vertical farming before vertical farming was cool. The coast presents an entirely different personality, with Indian Ocean beaches that stretch for hundreds of miles, backed by forests where ancient Swahili trading posts still operate. The coral reefs here are so healthy they make the Caribbean look environmentally challenged, while the historical sites tell stories of maritime trade networks that connected East Africa to India, Arabia, and beyond centuries before Europeans figured out there was more to the world than their small continent. What makes Kenya historically fascinating is how it became a crossroads for human migration, trade, and cultural exchange long before anyone drew modern borders. Archaeological evidence suggests this region was home to some of our earliest human ancestors, while more recent history shows wave after wave of different peoples creating the complex ethnic tapestry that defines modern Kenya. The Bantu migrations brought agricultural knowledge, Nilotic peoples brought pastoralism and complex social structures, and Cushitic groups contributed trade networks and different approaches to land management. The colonial period, while brief in historical terms, left deep impacts that still shape Kenya today. The British built railways to extract resources, established plantations that disrupted traditional land use, and created administrative systems that forced different ethnic groups into artificial political units. The interesting part is how Kenyans took these imposed structures and adapted them into something uniquely their own after independence in 1963. The Mau Mau resistance movement proved that Africans weren't going to accept colonial rule quietly, while post-independence leadership had to figure out how to build a nation from dozens of different ethnic groups with different languages, traditions, and economic systems. Modern Kenya represents one of Africa's most successful attempts at building a stable, economically viable nation-state. The country avoided the civil wars that plagued many neighbors, developed democratic institutions that actually function most of the time, and created an economy that's increasingly less dependent on traditional exports and more focused on services, technology, and manufacturing. Nairobi has become the unofficial capital of East Africa, hosting regional headquarters for international organizations and serving as a launching pad for businesses targeting the entire continent. The tribal diversity remains one of Kenya's greatest strengths and occasional challenges. Over 40 different ethnic groups call Kenya home, each with distinct languages, cultural practices, and traditional territories. The Kikuyu are the largest group and have produced 2 presidents, while the Luo are known for producing intellectuals and musicians. The Maasai get most of the tourist attention with their distinctive dress and pastoral lifestyle, but groups like the Turkana, Samburu, and Kalenjin have equally rich cultures and fascinating adaptations to different environments. What's remarkable is how these different groups have managed to coexist and create a national identity while maintaining their distinct cultural characteristics. Swahili serves as a unifying language that most Kenyans speak regardless of their ethnic background, while English handles official business and international communication. This linguistic diversity creates a population that is incredibly adaptable and globally minded while remaining rooted in local traditions. The economic transformation over the past 2 decades has been dramatic. Kenya went from being primarily agricultural to becoming a regional technology hub, with Nairobi earning the nickname Silicon Savannah for its thriving tech startup scene. The mobile money revolution started here with M-Pesa, which allowed people to transfer money via text message years before developed countries figured out digital payments. This innovation came from necessity. Most Kenyans didn't have bank accounts, but they had mobile phones, so someone figured out how to turn phones into banks. Now that you understand Kenya's foundation, let's see what daily life actually looks like in Nairobi, because this city will challenge every assumption you have about African urban centers and probably teach you a few things about how cities should actually work. Nairobi wakes up at 5 a.m. with a symphony of sounds that would drive noise-sensitive people completely insane but somehow creates the perfect urban soundtrack for everyone else. Roosters crow in residential neighborhoods while matatu drivers rev their engines and compete for passengers with music systems that could power small concerts. The city operates on an energy level that makes New York feel sleepy, but it's not the stressed-out hustle of Western cities. It's the hustle of people who genuinely believe today might be the day everything changes for the better. The matatu system deserves its own anthropological study because it's part transportation network, part entertainment venue, and part social experiment in controlled chaos. These privately owned minibuses are decorated with everything from gospel messages to hip-hop lyrics, equipped with sound systems that would make nightclub owners jealous, and driven by people who learned their skills from action movie stunt coordinators. Yet, somehow, this seemingly chaotic system moves millions of people daily more efficiently than many formal public transportation systems in developed countries. Walking through downtown Nairobi during rush hour is sensory overload in the best possible way. Street vendors sell everything from phone chargers to roasted corn, while mobile money agents conduct banking transactions on street corners. The smell of mandazi frying mixes with diesel fumes and the sounds of multiple languages, creating an urban symphony that is uniquely Kenyan. Business people in sharp suits navigate around women carrying babies and goods on their heads, while tech workers in hoodies grab coffee from vendors who remember exactly how everyone likes their order. The business district showcases Kenya's economic aspirations with glass towers that would not look out of place in Singapore, housing everything from international banks to tech startups that are building solutions for the entire African continent. The contrast with the colonial-era buildings just a few blocks away tells the story of a city that is rapidly modernizing while maintaining connections to its history. But the real story isn't in the fancy buildings. It's in the thousands of small businesses, street-side workshops, and informal enterprises that employ most of the city's population. Kibera, often called Africa's largest slum, sits just minutes from Nairobi's wealthy neighborhoods and represents both Kenya's challenges and its incredible resourcefulness. Over 1 million people live in this densely packed area where residents have created their own economic systems, social networks, and cultural institutions despite having limited access to formal services. The entrepreneurial energy here is incredible. People who have almost nothing somehow create businesses, support networks, and community organizations that would impress Harvard Business School students. The tech scene in Nairobi has exploded over the past decade, with iHub serving as the epicenter for Kenya's Silicon Savannah movement. Young programmers and entrepreneurs work on solutions for everything from agricultural finance to healthcare delivery, often starting with problems they've experienced personally. The innovation isn't about creating the next social media platform, it's about solving real problems for people with limited resources, which often leads to solutions that are more elegant and efficient than anything developed in Silicon Valley. Coffee culture in Nairobi reflects the city's international outlook while maintaining distinctly Kenyan characteristics. You'll find Italian-style espresso bars next to traditional coffee houses, where people spend hours discussing politics, business, and social issues over cups of locally grown coffee that costs less than $1. The quality of coffee available on Nairobi streets would make Seattle baristas weep with envy. while the social aspects of coffee drinking create networks that often turn into business partnerships or lifelong friendships. The nightlife scene ranges from rooftop bars with panoramic city views to neighborhood pubs where locals gather to watch football and debate everything from politics to relationships. The music is a mix of American hip-hop, Kenyan genres, and African sounds from across the continent, creating dance floors where everyone moves to rhythms that somehow blend seamlessly despite coming from completely different musical traditions. The social dynamics are fascinating. People dress up regardless of their income level, treat nightlife as community time rather than anonymous partying, and somehow manage to have more fun on limited budgets than people spending hundreds of dollars in expensive Western cities. The wealth inequality in Nairobi is stark and impossible to ignore, with luxury SUVs stuck in traffic next to people walking miles to work because they can't afford matatu fare. Yet the city doesn't feel as divided as many other places with similar economic disparities. There's a sense of shared identity and mutual respect that creates social cohesion despite huge differences in individual circumstances. People who live in slums and people who live in gated communities often work together, socialize together, and maintain friendships that cross economic boundaries in ways that seem impossible in more segregated societies. The entrepreneurial spirit in Nairobi is infectious. Everyone seems to have at least 2 jobs, 3 business ideas, and 5 different ways to make money from whatever skills or resources they have available. The informal economy is so sophisticated that Harvard economists come here to study how people create economic systems without formal institutions. Street vendors accept mobile payments. Small shops provide credit based on community relationships, and people create value chains that would impress multinational corporations while operating out of tiny spaces with minimal capital. This brings us to the question everyone wants answered. Can you actually live comfortably in Nairobi, and by extension Kenya, on $500 per month? The short answer is yes, but the long answer involves understanding how money works differently here and why your Western assumptions about cost and value might need some serious adjustment. Let's start with housing, because this is where your $500 budget either works brilliantly or falls apart completely, depending on your expectations and cultural adaptability. A 1-bedroom apartment in a decent Nairobi neighborhood will cost you anywhere from $150 to $300 per month, and we're not talking about cramped spaces with shared bathrooms. These are actual apartments with kitchens, private bathrooms, and often balconies with views that would cost thousands in Western cities. The catch is that decent neighborhood might mean dealing with occasional power outages, water shortages, and noise levels that would violate municipal ordinances in quieter countries. But here's where it gets interesting. Many expats and long-term visitors find shared accommodation that drops housing costs to $50 to $100 monthly, while providing built-in social networks and cultural education that no amount of money can buy elsewhere. Living with Kenyan roommates means learning Swahili through daily conversation, getting invited to family gatherings that become cultural immersion experiences, and having people who can navigate bureaucracy, explain social customs, and introduce you to opportunities that solo travelers never discover. Food costs in Kenya will make you question everything you thought you knew about expensive versus cheap eating. A full meal at a local restaurant, and we're talking about substantial portions of perfectly seasoned meat, vegetables, rice, or ugali, and usually some form of beverage, costs between $2 and $4. Compare that to the $15 to $20 you'd spend for similar quality and quantity in Western cities, and you start to understand why people can live well here on budgets that would mean rice and beans every day elsewhere. Street food takes the value proposition to almost ridiculous levels. A samosa that's freshly made and stuffed with spiced meat or vegetables costs about 50 cents. Mandazi, which are essentially East African donuts that somehow taste better than their Western counterparts, cost 25 cents each. Grilled corn on the cob, seasoned with lime and chili powder, costs about 75 cents and provides more flavor than anything you'll find at American state fairs that charge 5 times as much. The local markets are where your food budget becomes almost comical in its efficiency. Fresh fruits and vegetables cost so little that you'll find yourself buying more than you can eat simply because you can't believe the prices. Mangoes that would cost $3 each in Western supermarkets sell for 25 cents. Avocados are so cheap and abundant that you'll understand why millennials in expensive cities complain about avocado toast prices. They should just move to Kenya, where avocado toast is practically free. Transportation costs depend entirely on your willingness to embrace the local systems versus insisting on Western-style comfort and predictability. Matatu rides across Nairobi cost about 50 cents to $1 depending on distance, while taxi services and ride-sharing apps charge $2 to $5 for trips that would cost $15 to $20 in Western cities. If you're comfortable with occasional chaos and enjoy the social aspects of shared transportation, your monthly transport budget could be as low as $30 to $50. For those who prefer more predictable transportation, motorcycle taxis called bodas offer door-to-door service at reasonable prices while providing adventure that most people pay premium prices to experience in other countries. The drivers know every shortcut, back road and traffic pattern in the city, often getting you to destinations faster than cars while charging a fraction of taxi prices. Safety considerations apply, but millions of Kenyans use bodas daily without incident. Internet and phone services in Kenya are not only affordable but often superior to what you get in developed countries. High-speed internet that supports remote work, video calls, and streaming costs about $15 to $20 monthly, while mobile phone plans with generous data allowances run $10 to $15. The coverage is excellent throughout urban areas and surprisingly good in rural regions, making Kenya attractive for digital nomads who need reliable connectivity. Entertainment and social costs operate on completely different principles than Western cities. Many of the best experiences, sunset views, beach access, hiking trails, cultural events, are either free or cost minimal entrance fees. A night out including dinner, drinks, and entertainment rarely exceeds $20 unless you're deliberately choosing expensive tourist-oriented venues. Local clubs charge $5 to $10 cover fees that include drinks, while cultural events and festivals often operate on donation basis or charge symbolic fees. Healthcare costs deserve special mention, because Kenya offers both public and private healthcare options at prices that make medical tourism attractive for many procedures. A visit to a private clinic for routine care costs $10 to $20. Prescription medications are available at fractions of Western prices, and even more serious procedures cost significantly less than similar treatment in developed countries. Dental care is particularly affordable and high quality, with many dentists trained internationally. The hidden costs that can affect your budget include visa fees, occasional tips and gifts for people who help you navigate local systems, and the social expenses that come with participating in Kenyan community life. When people invite you to celebrations, contribute to community projects, or include you in group activities, there are often expected contributions that aren't exactly mandatory, but are important for maintaining relationships and showing cultural respect. Shopping for household items, clothing, and personal care products offers choices between local products at incredibly low prices and imported goods at prices similar to or higher than Western countries. Learning to use local alternatives for most needs while splurging on imported items only when necessary allows your budget to stretch much further, while often providing better quality than you'd expect. The realistic monthly breakdown for comfortable living in Kenya looks something like this. Housing $150 to $250 depending on location and arrangement. Food $75 to $100, including regular restaurant meals and market shopping. Transportation $30 to $50 using local systems, phone, and internet. $25 healthcare and personal care, $25 entertainment and social activities, $50 and miscellaneous expenses including visa fees and emergency funds, $50 to $75. This leaves room for occasional splurges, travel within Kenya, and building savings while maintaining a lifestyle that includes social activities, cultural experiences, and comfortable living conditions. The key to making this budget work is embracing Kenyan approaches to spending and saving rather than trying to replicate Western lifestyle patterns at Kenyan prices. Shopping at local markets rather than international supermarkets, eating at neighborhood restaurants rather than tourist-oriented establishments using public transportation rather than private cars, and participating in community activities rather than commercial entertainment provides authentic cultural experiences while maintaining budget discipline. Speaking of authentic cultural experiences, let's talk about food, because Kenyan cuisine is about to challenge everything you thought you knew about African cooking, while introducing you to flavors that will haunt your dreams long after you leave. Kenyan food culture operates on principles that prioritize community sharing, seasonal availability, and flavor combinations that somehow work despite seeming completely random to outsiders. The foundation of most meals is ugali, a cornmeal staple that serves as both food and utensil, allowing people to scoop up stews, vegetables, and meat with their hands while creating shared eating experiences that turn every meal into a social event. Ugali might look like polenta's plain cousin, but when prepared properly and eaten with the right accompaniments, it becomes the perfect vehicle for experiencing the complex flavors that define Kenyan cooking. The texture should be firm enough to hold together when formed into small balls, but soft enough to absorb the flavors of whatever it's paired with. Watching skilled cooks prepare ugali is like observing a meditation in motion. They know exactly when the consistency is perfect through subtle visual and tactile cues that take years to develop. Nyama choma, literally roasted meat, represents Kenya's approach to grilling that makes American barbecue seem overly complicated. The preparation involves seasoning meat with simple combinations of salt, pepper, and local spices, then grilling over charcoal fires that impart smoky flavors while maintaining the meat's natural characteristics. The social aspects are as important as the food. Nyama choma is rarely eaten alone, almost always accompanied by cold beer, and inevitably leads to conversations that last hours longer than anyone initially planned. The coastal influence brings Swahili cuisine that blends African, Arabic, Indian, and Portuguese elements into dishes that somehow maintain distinct characteristics while creating new flavor profiles. Biryani made with local rice, coconut, and spices creates aromatic dishes that rival anything found in India while maintaining uniquely East African characteristics. The use of coconut milk, cardamom, cinnamon, and other spices creates complex flavors that develop throughout the cooking process and improve with time. Pilau, another coastal favorite, demonstrates how centuries of trade relationships translated into culinary innovation. The rice is cooked with meat, vegetables, and spice combinations that create layers of flavor impossible to achieve through quick cooking methods. Traditional preparation involves slow cooking that allows ingredients to infuse completely, while creating tender textures that make each grain of rice a complete flavor experience. Street food in Kenya offers nutrition, flavor, and value that puts fast food chains to shame while providing social experiences that turn quick meals into community interactions. Samosas filled with spiced meat or vegetables are prepared fresh throughout the day, with vendors who remember regular customers' preferences and often extend credit to people they know and trust. The preparation involves hand-rolling pastry, mixing fillings according to family recipes, and frying at precise temperatures that create crispy exteriors and perfectly seasoned interiors. Mandazi represents Kenya's contribution to the global donut conversation, but comparing Mandazi to Western donuts is missing the point entirely. These lightly sweetened, cardamom-scented treats are perfect breakfast foods, afternoon snacks, or desserts depending on preparation and accompaniments. Street vendors prepare them fresh multiple times daily, ensuring that people can always find warm mandazi that provide comfort food satisfaction without excessive sweetness or artificial ingredients. The coffee culture deserves its own documentary because Kenya produces some of the world's best coffee, while maintaining social traditions around coffee drinking that create community bonds and business relationships. Kenyan coffee beans are prized internationally for their bright acidity, complex flavors, and consistent quality that reflects optimal growing conditions and generations of agricultural expertise. Yet, somehow, the best coffee experiences happen not in fancy cafes, but in local establishments where people gather to discuss everything from politics to family matters over cups that cost less than $1. Traditional coffee preparation involves roasting beans fresh daily, grinding by hand, and brewing methods that extract maximum flavor while creating aromatic experiences that fill entire neighborhoods with the smell of fresh coffee. The social protocols around coffee drinking include offering coffee to visitors, extending conversations over multiple cups, and using coffee time as opportunities for business negotiations, relationship building, and community information sharing. Local markets provide education in seasonal eating, regional specialties, and food preparation techniques that most cooking schools charge thousands to teach. Vendors who've been selling produce for decades can explain the best uses for different varieties, suggest cooking methods for unfamiliar ingredients, and provide recipes that have been passed down through generations. The shopping experience becomes cultural education that enhances cooking and eating experiences while supporting local agricultural systems. The fruit varieties available in Kenya include familiar options alongside tropical specialties that most visitors have never encountered. Passion fruits, mangoes, papayas, and pineapples are available year-round at prices that make daily fruit consumption financially feasible and nutritionally beneficial. Local varieties often taste significantly better than exported versions found in Western supermarkets because they're picked ripe and consumed fresh, rather than harvested early for shipping. Regional specialties reflect Kenya's geographic and cultural diversity, with mountain communities producing different foods than coastal or plains regions. The highlands produce vegetables that thrive in cooler climates, while coastal areas specialize in seafood preparations that take advantage of Indian Ocean abundance. Pastoral communities have developed dairy products and meat preparation techniques that maximize nutrition while preserving foods in challenging environments. The social aspects of eating in Kenya emphasize sharing, hospitality, and community building in ways that transform meals from simple nutrition into cultural experiences. Refusing food offers can cause offense, while participating enthusiastically in shared meals creates relationships and demonstrates cultural respect that opens doors to deeper cultural understanding and authentic local experiences. Now that we've covered the food that brings people together, let's address the social dynamics and dating culture that everyone's curious about but afraid to ask about directly, because understanding gender relationships in Kenya requires cultural sensitivity and honest conversation about complex topics. Dating and relationships in Kenya operate according to cultural codes that blend traditional African values with modern influences, creating social dynamics that require understanding and respect from foreign visitors who want to build authentic relationships rather than perpetuate stereotypes or exploit cultural differences. The first thing to understand is that Kenyan women are not the exotic objects that unfortunately appear in too many travel blogs written by men who completely miss the point of cross-cultural interaction. Kenyan women are doctors, lawyers, business owners, engineers, teachers, artists, and everything else that women are everywhere, while also maintaining cultural values and social expectations that might differ from Western relationship norms. The key is approaching relationships with genuine interest in getting to know individuals rather than pursuing fantasies based on stereotypes. Traditional gender roles in Kenya emphasize family responsibility, community contribution, and mutual support between partners. But these roles are evolving rapidly as education levels increase and economic opportunities expand for women. Many Kenyan women balance career ambitions with family expectations, cultural obligations with personal desires, and traditional values with modern lifestyles in ways that create complex negotiations between different social pressures. The education levels among Kenyan women are impressive and often exceed those of their male counterparts. University enrollment is roughly equal between genders, while women often outperform men academically and pursue advanced degrees in fields like medicine, law, and engineering. This educational achievement translates into professional success and economic independence that affects relationship expectations and power dynamics in ways that foreign men need to understand and respect. Dating culture in urban areas like Nairobi reflects international influences while maintaining distinctly Kenyan characteristics. Casual dating exists, especially among younger, educated populations. But family approval and long-term intentions remain important considerations for serious relationships. The social networks are tight, meaning that your behavior and reputation become known quickly throughout relevant communities, which creates social accountability that affects how people approach relationships. Foreign men interested in dating Kenyan women often discover that material resources matter less than cultural understanding, respect for family relationships, and genuine interest in learning about Kenyan culture and values. Women who are financially independent and educationally accomplished are looking for partners who can contribute to their lives intellectually and emotionally rather than simply providing economic support. The family involvement in relationships can feel overwhelming to people from individualistic cultures, but it also provides social support systems and community integration that enrich relationships when navigated respectfully. Parents, siblings, and extended family members often expect to meet and approve of romantic partners, and their opinions carry significant weight in relationship decisions. However, this involvement also means that relationships have community support and cultural context that can provide stability and belonging. Gender equality issues in Kenya reflect ongoing cultural evolution that balances traditional values with changing social expectations and legal requirements. Women have equal legal rights and participate fully in professional and political life. But cultural expectations about family responsibilities and gender roles remain strong in many communities. Understanding these dynamics helps foreign visitors navigate social relationships without accidentally causing offense or misunderstanding cultural expectations. The expat dating scene in Kenya is relatively small but growing as more international residents discover the country's attractions. Building relationships within the expat community often requires understanding local cultural expectations and showing respect for Kenyan values even when not directly participating in traditional cultural practices. Mixed relationships between foreigners and Kenyans require cultural sensitivity, language learning, and genuine commitment to understanding different worldviews and value systems. Social gatherings and nightlife provide opportunities for meeting people within appropriate cultural context. But understanding social protocols is essential for building authentic relationships rather than superficial encounters. Kenyan social life often revolves around group activities, family gatherings, and community events that provide natural opportunities for meeting people and building relationships gradually within established social networks. The religious influence on relationships and social behavior is significant, with Christianity playing major roles in how many Kenyans approach dating, marriage, and family formation. Understanding these religious perspectives helps foreign visitors navigate social relationships respectfully while building genuine connections with people whose worldviews might differ significantly from secular Western approaches to relationships. Communication styles in Kenyan relationships often emphasize indirect communication, respect for hierarchy, and community consensus in ways that can seem confusing to people from more direct communication cultures. Learning to read social cues, understand implied meanings, and navigate complex social networks requires patience and cultural humility that ultimately leads to deeper and more meaningful relationships. The marriage and family formation processes in Kenya typically involve extended negotiations between families, traditional ceremonies alongside modern celebrations, and community-wide support for new relationships. These processes can seem formal or complicated to visitors from cultures with more informal relationship traditions, but they create social bonds and community integration that provide long-term stability and support for couples and families. Economic factors affect relationships in ways that foreign visitors need to understand without making assumptions about motivations or expectations. Many Kenyans support extended family members and have financial obligations that affect their lifestyle choices and relationship decisions. Understanding these economic realities helps build relationships based on mutual understanding rather than mismatched expectations or cultural misunderstandings. But relationships are just one aspect of Kenya's rich social fabric, which comes alive most vibrantly during the music festivals and cultural celebrations that showcase the country's artistic creativity and community spirit. Music in Kenya tells the story of a country that's always been connected to the wider world while maintaining its own distinct cultural identity. The rhythms that flow through Kenyan music reflect centuries of interaction between African, Arabic, Indian, and Western influences, creating genres that somehow sound completely unique while remaining familiar enough to make anyone want to dance. Benga music represents Kenya's most distinctive contribution to African popular music, with guitar-driven rhythms that emerged from traditional Luo music but evolved into a national sound that crosses ethnic boundaries. The guitar-playing style in Benga is instantly recognizable. Intricate finger-picking patterns that create hypnotic rhythms while maintaining space for vocals that tell stories about love, politics, social issues, and daily life. Watching skilled Benga musicians perform is like witnessing conversations between instruments, with guitars responding to each other in patterns that seem improvised but follow complex musical logic. The evolution of Kenyan hip-hop, locally called Genj, demonstrates how global music forms get adapted to local languages, concerns, and cultural contexts. Genj artists rap in Sheng, a street language that blends English, Swahili, and local languages into rapid-fire wordplay that addresses everything from politics to relationships to social commentary. The beats often incorporate traditional African rhythms alongside modern production techniques, creating music that sounds both international and uniquely Kenyan. Gospel music holds enormous influence in Kenya, with artists who achieve mainstream success while maintaining religious messages and community connections. Kenyan gospel combines American gospel traditions with African rhythms and local languages, creating worship music that functions equally well in churches and on dance floors. The production values often rival secular music, while the community aspects of gospel music create social networks that extend far beyond religious contexts. Traditional music and dance remain vital parts of Kenyan culture, with different ethnic groups maintaining distinct musical traditions that reflect their histories, environments, and social structures. Maasai jumping dances, Kikuyu ceremonial songs, and Luo traditional rhythms are not museum pieces but living cultural practices that continue to evolve while maintaining connections to ancestral traditions. Cultural festivals throughout the year provide opportunities to experience these traditions in authentic contexts rather than tourist performances. The Lamu Cultural Festival represents one of East Africa's most significant cultural celebrations, combining Swahili traditions with Islamic influences and coastal lifestyle in a 4-day celebration that includes traditional music, dance, poetry, and crafts. The festival takes place on Lamu Island, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that has maintained traditional architecture and lifestyle for over 700 years. Attending this festival provides cultural education alongside entertainment, with workshops, performances, and community activities that welcome respectful visitors. Blankets and wine festivals in Nairobi showcase contemporary Kenyan music alongside international acts, creating events that celebrate local talent while maintaining high production standards and diverse programming. These festivals attract young, educated audiences who represent Kenya's growing middle class and international outlook. The atmosphere combines music appreciation with social networking, fashion display, and cultural celebration that reflects modern Kenyan urban culture. The traditional wedding celebrations in different Kenyan communities provide spectacular displays of music, dance, and cultural traditions that can last for days and involve hundreds of participants. The ceremonies blend ancient customs with modern celebrations, creating events that honor cultural heritage while celebrating contemporary relationships. The music at these celebrations ranges from traditional songs that tell family histories to contemporary music that gets everyone dancing. Nyatiti music, traditional to the Luo community, features a stringed instrument that creates haunting melodies often accompanied by storytelling that preserves historical events, moral teachings, and cultural knowledge. Master Nyatiti players are cultural repositories who maintain oral traditions while adapting their art to contemporary contexts. Learning about Nyatiti music provides insights into how traditional African cultures preserved and transmitted knowledge through artistic expression. The club scene in Nairobi features multiple music styles throughout single evenings, with DJs who seamlessly blend American hip-hop, Kenyan genge, Nigerian Afrobeats, South African house music, and local favorites into sets that keep diverse crowds dancing until dawn. The musical education that happens on these dance floors is remarkable. People learn about different African cultures through music while celebrating their own cultural identity. Music production in Kenya has become increasingly sophisticated, with local studios producing albums that compete internationally while maintaining distinctly Kenyan characteristics. The combination of modern recording technology with traditional musical knowledge creates opportunities for artistic innovation that honors cultural heritage while pushing creative boundaries. The connection between music and social movements in Kenya reflects the important role that artists play in political and social commentary. Musicians often address issues like corruption, inequality, and social justice through their art, creating songs that become anthems for social change while maintaining artistic quality and entertainment value. This tradition of socially conscious music provides cultural education alongside entertainment. Dance culture in Kenya emphasizes community participation over individual performance, with traditional and contemporary dances that welcome everyone regardless of skill level. The social aspects of dancing create opportunities for cultural exchange, relationship building, and community celebration that turn music events into social experiences rather than passive entertainment consumption. All this cultural richness requires ways to get around and stay connected, and Kenya's transportation and digital infrastructure will surprise you with its efficiency, innovation, and occasional chaos that somehow works better than systems that cost 10 times as much to build and maintain. Transportation in Kenya operates on principles that prioritize accessibility and affordability over comfort and predictability, creating systems that move millions of people daily while providing social experiences and economic opportunities that formal transportation systems often lack. The genius of Kenyan transportation lies not in planning, but in adaptation systems that evolved organically to serve real needs rather than following theoretical models. The matatu system deserves recognition as one of the world's most efficient informal transportation networks, moving over 3 million passengers daily in Nairobi alone through privately owned vehicles that operate without central coordination, yet somehow maintain routes, schedules, and pricing that serve the entire metropolitan area. Each matatu is decorated according to the owner's personality and marketing strategy, creating a mobile art gallery that reflects popular culture, religious beliefs, and social commentary. Matatu culture extends beyond simple transportation into entertainment and social networking, with vehicles equipped with sound systems that would cost more than some people's annual salaries, video screens playing everything from music videos to soccer matches, and social dynamics that turn routine commutes into community experiences. The conductors who collect fares and manage passengers are often skilled entertainers who keep passengers engaged through jokes, music selection, and social commentary that makes traffic jams bearable and even enjoyable. Boda motorcycle taxis provide door-to-door transportation that can navigate traffic jams, reach destinations inaccessible to larger vehicles, and offer adventure that most people pay premium prices to experience in other countries. The drivers know every shortcut, back road, and traffic pattern in their operating areas, often getting passengers to destinations faster than cars, while charging reasonable prices and providing social interaction that turns transportation into cultural exchange. The safety considerations around bodas are real but manageable with basic precautions and common sense. Experienced drivers understand traffic patterns and vehicle capabilities better than most people understand walking, while the accident rates are lower than driving statistics in many developed countries. The key is choosing reputable operators, wearing provided helmets, and communicating clearly about destinations and route preferences. Digital payment systems in Kenya have revolutionized not just transportation, but entire economic systems, with M-Pesa allowing cashless transactions that work better than credit card systems in many developed countries. Passengers can pay matatu fares, boda rides, and taxi services through mobile money transfers that provide convenience and security, while creating digital records that help drivers manage their businesses more effectively. The ride-sharing services that operate in Kenya include international companies like Uber alongside local alternatives that understand local conditions and cultural preferences better than international platforms. These services provide alternatives to matatus and bodas for passengers who prefer predictable pricing and GPS tracking, though they cost more and often take longer than local transportation options that know shortcuts and traffic patterns. Internet connectivity in Kenya surprises visitors with its speed, reliability, and affordability, making the country attractive for digital nomads and remote workers who need consistent connectivity for international business. The fiber optic infrastructure reaches most urban areas and many rural regions, while mobile data networks provide backup connectivity that often works better than fixed broadband in many developed countries. Mobile phone penetration in Kenya exceeds 90%, with smartphones becoming increasingly affordable and accessible even for low-income populations. The integration of mobile money, internet access, and communication services into single devices has created digital inclusion that surpasses many wealthier countries, where different services require separate systems and higher costs. The innovation in financial technology that started with M-Pesa has expanded into comprehensive digital banking, insurance, credit, and investment services that work through basic mobile phones without requiring internet access or smartphone capabilities. These systems serve populations that were previously excluded from formal financial services while providing security and convenience that rival advanced banking systems in developed countries. Logistics and delivery services have evolved to take advantage of Kenya's transportation networks and digital payment systems, with companies that can deliver goods throughout the country using combinations of formal and informal transportation networks. The efficiency and cost-effectiveness of these systems often exceed international courier services while providing employment opportunities and business development for local entrepreneurs. The integration between transportation and digital services creates opportunities for multimodal trips that combine different transportation methods seamlessly, with digital payments that work across all systems and information systems that help passengers make informed decisions about routes, timing, and costs. This integration happened organically through market forces rather than government planning, creating user-centered systems that prioritize functionality over theoretical elegance. Cross-border transportation connects Kenya to neighboring countries through bus services, air connections, and informal networks that facilitate regional trade and travel. The East African Community integration has simplified many border procedures while maintaining distinct national systems that reflect different economic and political priorities. Now that you understand how to get around Kenya and stay connected, let's look beyond the urban experiences to the natural wonders and wildlife that make Kenya one of the world's premier destinations for people who want to experience the natural world as it was meant to be. Kenya's natural environments operate on scales that make most other countries seem environmentally impoverished, with ecosystems that support wildlife populations, plant diversity, and landscape beauty that exist nowhere else on Earth. The concentration of different environments within relatively small areas creates opportunities for natural experiences that would require traveling across continents to find elsewhere. The Maasai Mara represents everything people think they know about African wildlife, then exceeds those expectations through sheer abundance and diversity that makes every game drive a potential National Geographic documentary. The annual wildebeest migration brings over 2 million animals through the Mara ecosystem, creating spectacles that are simultaneously beautiful and brutal, inspiring and humbling. Watching predator-prey interactions, birth and death cycles, and survival strategies that have evolved over millions of years provides perspectives on life and nature that no amount of documentary watching can replicate. But the Mara is just the most famous of Kenya's wildlife areas, with over 50 national parks and reserves that protect different ecosystems and wildlife populations throughout the country. Amboseli National Park offers elephant viewing with Mount Kilimanjaro as backdrop, creating photographic opportunities that seem too perfect to be natural. The elephants here are among the largest in Africa, with tusks that recall the giants that once roamed the continent in even greater numbers. Tsavo East and West National Parks together form one of the world's largest protected ecosystems, covering over 20,000 square kilometers of diverse habitats that support everything from desert-adapted elephants to riverine forests filled with birds, primates, and smaller wildlife that most visitors never notice but that create the ecological complexity that supports the larger animals everyone comes to see. The coastal national parks and marine reserves protect coral reefs, sea turtle nesting beaches, and marine ecosystems that rival any tropical destination while maintaining authentic cultural contexts and affordable access. Malindi and Watamu Marine Parks offer snorkeling and diving experiences that showcase healthy coral reefs, abundant fish populations, and marine life that includes everything from colorful reef fish to whale sharks and dolphins. Mount Kenya National Park protects Africa's second highest peak along with alpine ecosystems that exist nowhere else on the continent. The mountain supports glaciers, alpine lakes, and vegetation zones that change dramatically with elevation, creating hiking opportunities that range from day walks through mountain forests to technical climbs that challenge experienced mountaineers. The cultural significance of Mount Kenya to local communities adds historical and spiritual dimensions to outdoor experiences. Lake Nakuru National Park demonstrates Kenya's commitment to wildlife conservation through success stories like the recovery of black and white rhinoceros populations that were nearly extinct 30 years ago. The park's alkaline lake supports massive flamingo populations that create pink carpets across the water surface, while the surrounding woodlands and grasslands support diverse wildlife populations, including leopards, lions, and endangered species that benefit from intensive conservation management. The Great Rift Valley Lake System includes multiple lakes with different characteristics and wildlife populations. From the alkaline lakes that support flamingos and other specialized species to freshwater lakes that support fishing communities and water sports activities. Each lake has distinct ecological characteristics and cultural associations that create opportunities for both wildlife viewing and cultural learning. Hell's Gate National Park offers the unusual opportunity to walk and cycle among wildlife without the protection of vehicles, providing more intimate wildlife experiences while showcasing dramatic geological formations that include hot springs, rock towers, and gorges that inspired the landscape in Disney's Lion King movie. The geological activity that created these formations continues today, making the park a living laboratory for understanding Earth sciences. The Aberdare Range protects mountain forests and moorlands that support different wildlife populations than the Savannah parks, including forest elephants, various antelope species, and birds that exist only in mountain environments. The higher elevations include bamboo forests and alpine zones that create hiking opportunities through ecosystems that change dramatically with elevation and weather conditions. Samburu National Reserve in northern Kenya protects arid landscape wildlife that has adapted to harsh conditions through evolutionary strategies that demonstrate nature is incredible creativity. The wildlife here includes species that exist nowhere else, while the landscape beauty combines dramatic rock formations with sparse vegetation that creates photographic opportunities during the brief periods when rainfall transforms deserts into temporary gardens. The bird life in Kenya includes over 1,000 species, making the country one of the world's premier birdwatching destinations for both serious ornithologists and casual observers who simply enjoy seeing beautiful creatures in natural environments. The diversity reflects Kenya's position on major migration routes along with resident species that have adapted to every type of environment the country offers. Adventure activities beyond wildlife viewing include mountain climbing, whitewater rafting, kite surfing, deep-sea fishing, and cultural tourism that combines outdoor activities with opportunities to learn about traditional lifestyles and contemporary rural development. These activities often cost fractions of similar experiences in developed countries while providing superior natural settings and cultural authenticity. The conservation challenges facing Kenya's natural areas are significant but not insurmountable. With innovative programs that combine wildlife protection with community development, tourism revenue with habitat preservation, and traditional knowledge with modern conservation science. Understanding these challenges helps visitors appreciate the efforts required to maintain natural areas while supporting conservation through responsible tourism choices. With all these natural wonders to experience, you'll want to make sure you can enjoy them safely and handle any health issues that arise. So, let's talk about practical safety considerations and healthcare realities that affect everyone who spends significant time in Kenya. Safety in Kenya operates on different principles than many visitors expect, with security challenges that are real but manageable alongside social systems that provide community protection and mutual support that formal security systems often lack. Understanding how safety works here helps visitors make informed decisions while avoiding both unnecessary paranoia and dangerous naivety. Crime in Kenya tends to be economically motivated rather than random violence, which means that basic precautions and cultural awareness can prevent most problems while allowing visitors to experience authentic cultural interactions without excessive worry. Petty theft occurs in tourist areas and crowded places, but violent crime against visitors is relatively rare, especially for people who show cultural respect and avoid obviously risky situations. Nairobi has specific areas that require extra caution, particularly at night and in neighborhoods where tourist presence makes people obvious targets for opportunistic crime. However, the vast majority of the city is safe for visitors who use common sense, avoid displaying valuable items conspicuously, and follow local advice about areas and activities to avoid. The social networks in most neighborhoods provide informal security through collective vigilance and community accountability. Traffic safety represents a more significant daily risk than crime for most visitors, with road conditions, driving standards, and traffic patterns that require attention and adaptation. Using reputable transportation services, avoiding night travel on rural roads, and understanding local traffic customs can prevent most traffic-related problems while allowing visitors to experience authentic transportation systems. The healthcare system in Kenya provides both public and private options that can handle most medical needs competently, though the quality and availability of services varies significantly between urban and rural areas. Private hospitals and clinics in major cities offer modern facilities and well-trained medical staff, while rural areas may have limited facilities but often maintain traditional healing knowledge that complements modern medical approaches. Health insurance considerations for visitors depend on home country coverage and individual health needs, with many international insurance policies providing adequate coverage for routine medical needs while requiring supplementary coverage for emergency evacuation or specialized treatments. Understanding what coverage is available helps visitors make informed decisions about activities and travel destinations. Preventive healthcare measures for Kenya include routine vaccinations that are recommended for East African travel, though the specific requirements depend on individual health status, planned activities, and areas to be visited. Malaria prevention is recommended for most areas, though the risk varies significantly with elevation, season, and specific locations within the country. Water and food safety requires attention, but shouldn't prevent visitors from experiencing authentic local cuisine and cultural activities. Bottled water is widely available and affordable, while local food from reputable sources is generally safe for visitors with reasonable immune systems. Learning to distinguish between safe and risky food choices allows cultural culinary experiences without excessive health risks. Medical facilities in major cities include hospitals that meet international standards for most procedures, with many doctors trained internationally and equipment that rivals facilities in developed countries. The costs for medical services are significantly lower than Western countries, making Kenya attractive for medical tourism while providing confidence for visitors who may need medical attention during their stay. Emergency services throughout Kenya include ambulance services, police response, and rescue capabilities that function adequately in urban areas while being more limited in rural regions. Understanding how to access emergency services and having emergency contacts readily available provides security while allowing visitors to pursue activities and travel destinations throughout the country. Pharmacy services in Kenya provide access to most routine medications at significantly lower costs than Western countries, though prescription requirements and available medications may differ from visitor expectations. Bringing adequate supplies of essential medications while understanding what alternatives are available locally provides security without excessive medication storage requirements. Mental health services are available but limited, particularly for services provided in languages other than English or Swahili. However, the social support systems and outdoor lifestyle opportunities often provide natural mental health benefits that help visitors and residents manage stress and emotional challenges through community connection and physical activity. Women's safety in Kenya requires cultural awareness and appropriate precautions, but millions of Kenyan women navigate daily life successfully while foreign women visit and live in Kenya without major safety concerns. Understanding cultural expectations about dress, behavior, and social interactions helps female visitors avoid unwanted attention while building authentic relationships and experiencing genuine cultural activities. Tourist police and specialized security services in major tourist areas provide additional protection and assistance for visitors who encounter problems or need help navigating local systems. These services understand the specific challenges that foreign visitors face while maintaining connections to local communities and cultural knowledge that helps resolve problems effectively. Natural hazards in Kenya are generally predictable and manageable with appropriate preparation and local knowledge, though activities like mountain climbing, whitewater rafting, and wildlife viewing do involve inherent risks that require understanding and preparation. Local guides and activity operators generally maintain good safety standards while providing authentic experiences that connect visitors to natural environments. Personal security measures for visitors should emphasize cultural awareness and community integration, rather than isolation and suspicion, as the social connections and cultural understanding provide better long-term security than defensive measures that prevent authentic cultural experiences and relationship building. All these practical considerations bring us to the nuts and bolts of actually getting to Kenya and staying there legally, because understanding visa requirements, essential apps, and cultural navigation tools can make the difference between a smooth cultural immersion and a frustrating struggle with bureaucratic obstacles. Visa requirements for Kenya have been simplified in recent years to encourage tourism and business development, with online application systems that process most applications within a few days, while providing clear information about requirements and procedures. Citizens of most countries can obtain tourist visas that allow stays up to 90 days, with options for extension or conversion to other visa types for people who discover longer-term opportunities. The online visa application system requires basic documentation, including passport information, travel itinerary, and accommodation details, along with application fees that are reasonable compared to similar countries. Processing times are generally reliable, though applying at least a week before travel provides security against unexpected delays or additional documentation requirements. East African community integration allows visa holders to visit neighboring countries without additional visa applications in many cases, making regional travel more accessible and affordable for visitors who want to experience multiple countries during single trips. Understanding these regional agreements helps visitors plan comprehensive East African experiences while minimizing visa costs and administrative complications. Language basics in Kenya include English as the official business language alongside Swahili as the national language, with numerous local languages that reflect the country's ethnic diversity. Learning basic Swahili phrases enhances cultural interactions and demonstrates respect for local culture, while English proficiency among educated Kenyans facilitates business and social interactions for international visitors. Essential Swahili phrases for visitors include greetings, basic courtesy expressions, numbers and practical vocabulary for market interactions, transportation, and social situations. The effort to learn and use local language is appreciated by Kenyans and opens doors to deeper cultural interactions and authentic experiences that are not available to visitors who rely solely on English communication. Mobile phone and internet setup for visitors involves purchasing local SIM cards that provide affordable voice, text, and data services with coverage throughout most of the country. The major mobile networks offer tourist-friendly packages with generous data allowances and international calling options that keep visitors connected while providing access to local services and applications. Money exchange and banking services provide multiple options for accessing and managing money during visits, with currency exchange available at airports, banks, and licensed exchange bureaus throughout the country. Understanding exchange rates, service fees, and security considerations helps visitors manage money effectively while avoiding common scams and excessive charges. Mobile money services like M-Pesa provide cashless payment options that work throughout Kenya for everything from transportation to restaurant bills, though setting up accounts may require local documentation that tourist visitors cannot provide. However, many services accept mobile money payments from visitors who have Kenyan friends or contacts willing to facilitate transactions. Transportation apps and services include ride-sharing platforms, bus booking systems, and mapping services that help visitors navigate transportation options while providing price transparency and safety features. Understanding which apps work best in different situations helps visitors choose appropriate transportation while avoiding overcharges or unsafe services. Cultural etiquette guidelines for Kenya emphasize respect for age and authority, appropriate dress for different contexts, and understanding social protocols that govern interaction between different ethnic groups and social classes. Demonstrating cultural awareness and respect opens doors to authentic interactions while preventing misunderstandings that could create social or business complications. Tipping customs in Kenya reflect a service-oriented culture while maintaining reasonable expectations based on local economic conditions. Understanding appropriate tipping amounts and situations helps visitors show appreciation for good service while avoiding over-tipping that creates unrealistic expectations or under-tipping that suggests disrespect for service providers. Shopping and bargaining protocols vary between different types of establishments, with fixed prices in formal retail stores and negotiable prices in markets and informal settings. Learning to bargain appropriately demonstrates cultural understanding, while ensuring fair prices without creating confrontational situations or overpaying significantly for goods and services. Business customs for visitors interested in professional interactions include understanding hierarchy, meeting protocols, and relationship-building practices that affect business success. Kenyan business culture emphasizes personal relationships and trust building alongside professional competence, requiring patience and cultural sensitivity for successful business development. Emergency contacts and important numbers for visitors should include local emergency services, embassy or consulate contacts, and trusted local contacts who can provide assistance or advice during unexpected situations. Having this information readily accessible provides security while allowing visitors to pursue activities and experiences throughout the country with confidence. After covering all these practical details, it's time to step back and consider what Kenya really represents in the broader context of African development, travel evolution, and personal growth opportunities that extend far beyond simple tourism or budget living considerations. Kenya stands at the intersection of everything that makes Africa exciting, challenging, beautiful, and hopeful in the 21st century. This isn't just another budget travel destination where your money goes further. It's a country that's actively writing the next chapter of African development while maintaining cultural authenticity and natural beauty that provide experiences unavailable anywhere else on Earth. The economic transformation happening in Kenya represents what's possible when countries combine traditional knowledge with technological innovation, local solutions with global connectivity, and cultural preservation with strategic modernization. The mobile money revolution that started here is now being studied and replicated worldwide, while the renewable energy initiatives and agricultural innovations demonstrate African solutions to global challenges. What makes Kenya particularly compelling for international visitors is how the country balances development ambitions with cultural preservation and environmental protection. The wildlife conservation programs that protect endangered species while providing economic opportunities for local communities offer models for sustainable development that benefit both people and natural ecosystems. The cultural festivals and traditional practices that coexist with modern urban development create opportunities for authentic cultural exchange alongside contemporary social and business interactions. The entrepreneurial energy in Kenya is infectious and educational for visitors from any background, with innovation happening at every economic level, from street vendors who've developed sophisticated business systems to tech entrepreneurs who are building solutions for continental markets. The resourcefulness and optimism that characterize Kenyan approaches to problem-solving provide inspiration and practical lessons that apply far beyond African contexts. For budget travelers, Kenya proves that meaningful experiences don't require unlimited financial resources. They require cultural curiosity, personal flexibility, and willingness to engage authentically with different ways of living and thinking. The $500 monthly budget we've discussed provides not just survival, but genuine cultural immersion, natural adventure, and personal growth opportunities that expensive tourist destinations often fail to deliver despite their higher costs. The relationships you'll build in Kenya often prove more lasting and meaningful than those formed through expensive tourist experiences, because they're based on shared daily experiences, mutual learning, and genuine cultural exchange rather than commercial transactions. The Kenyan friends you make will likely remain connected to your life long after your visit or residence ends, providing ongoing cultural education and personal relationships that enrich your global perspective. The natural environments you'll experience in Kenya provide perspectives on conservation, biodiversity, and human relationships with natural landscapes that are increasingly rare in our urbanized world. Witnessing wildlife in natural habitats, experiencing landscapes that have remained unchanged for millions of years, and understanding traditional relationships between human communities and natural environments provides education that no amount of documentary watching or classroom learning can replicate. Kenya's position as a regional hub for East Africa makes it an ideal base for understanding broader African development trends, cultural diversity, and economic opportunities that extend throughout the continent. The transportation connections, business networks, and cultural exchanges that flow through Kenya provide insights into African continental integration and the emerging economic opportunities that will define Africa's role in global economic development. The challenges that Kenya faces, inequality, environmental pressures, infrastructure development needs, and governance issues, are real and shouldn't be romanticized or ignored. However, the innovative approaches to addressing these challenges and the resilience and optimism that characterize Kenyan responses to difficulties provide lessons in problem-solving and community building that apply far beyond African contexts. For digital nomads and remote workers, Kenya offers infrastructure and lifestyle advantages that many more expensive destinations cannot match. With reliable internet, affordable living costs, vibrant social environments, and cultural richness that provide both professional productivity and personal satisfaction. The time zone advantages for working with both European and Asian clients, combined with English language proficiency and international business experience, make Kenya attractive for international business development. The timing for experiencing Kenya is particularly significant because the country is at a development inflection point where traditional culture and modern ambitions are creating unique social dynamics and opportunities that won't exist indefinitely. Being part of this transformation period provides opportunities to witness and participate in social and economic changes that will define Kenya's future, while experiencing the authentic culture that makes change meaningful rather than merely commercial. Your Kenya adventure will challenge assumptions about Africa, about budget travel, about cultural exchange, and about what constitutes meaningful life experiences in our increasingly connected but often superficial global culture. The education you'll receive extends far beyond practical travel skills into fundamental questions about community, sustainability, innovation, and human relationships that will influence your thinking and decision-making long after you leave. Kenya deserves recognition not just as an affordable travel destination, but as a country that's demonstrating African solutions to global challenges while maintaining cultural authenticity and natural beauty that provide experiences unavailable anywhere else. Comment below if you're ready to experience a country that will change your perspective on Africa, on travel, and on what's possible when you approach new places with genuine curiosity rather than preconceived expectations. Kenya is waiting to share its innovations, its beauty, and its optimism with visitors who understand that the best travel experiences come from cultural engagement rather than cultural consumption.